Why, hello there, beautiful people. Welcome back to the channel. So we need to talk about New Zealand. We should talk about New Zealand. Not exactly sure the way everyone else is talking about it, particularly the mainstream media, is doing it justice. So here's what happened. A sick, twisted human being went into a mosque, gunned down 40 innocent people, and that's where we are now. I think the death toll, the max limit from what I've heard is 40. Could be a little higher, but I'm guessing that's where the number would eventually settle down to. Terrible, terrible atrocity. Arguably one of the worst things in the context of New Zealand. From what I've been reading up, it's a really peaceful country, so I guess those numbers are really, really high in the context of I mean, they're high anywhere, but in the context of New Zealand, especially high. So, condolences to all the families of victims. Someone who's not a particularly religious person, I don't necessarily know what to tell people when their family has passed away, but I do have sympathy, just not good at expressing it. So now let's go down to this particular attack. I always feel when a particular attack happens, it's important to look at the different motivations involved, to look at the different grievances. A lot of the people that we've in charge, or maybe that's not the right word, that we've elected or selected to give us the news, a lot of those people feel that motivations of a particular attacker are not particularly important. Those people are what I would call morons. If a particular attacker's motivations is not studied, well, if it was powerful enough to motivate one person, there's no reason why it shouldn't motivate other people. So let's talk a little bit about his motivations. The gunman in his rifle had the name Ebba Ackerlund, or Ackerland. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that name right. Ebba Ackerlund is an 11-year-old girl. This is Ebba Ackerlund. She is Swedish. Well, she was Swedish. She was in Stockholm, where she was killed. She was killed by an Islamic terrorist. Her name was on the rifle, so you can sort of pretty much guess what was going on. This dude in New Zealand, was pretty much looking at news all over the world. And he was particularly disturbed by what he was seeing in Germany, Sweden, England, and all over the West. He considered, from what I understand, the Battle of the West to be his own. So that's, from what I can understand, was his motivation, at least to some part. He identified a genuine grievance that a lot of people in the West have. And from that genuine grievance, he reached a conclusion that was way out there, totally not productive. As a matter of fact, it sets the whole thing back and killed innocents, which in no way is ever excusable. So going back to the motivation of this dude, now let's talk about the number a little bit. I know that number was exceptionally high in the context of New Zealand, as it was, but let's try to give that number a few more context to see, I don't know, to the best of my ability as an objective person, how much should you care about it? This is what happened in Nigeria less than a month ago. 32 Christians gone. This is what happened in the Philippines, January 20. Do those numbers seem really high compared to this? Not particularly. When I started this channel, I used to live about 6 to 8 hours away from Chicago. Chicago averages one murder a day. That's about 30 odd people that meet their demise every other month. So the number ends at 40. You guys decide how much of a you guys decide conceptually or contextually where it should go. I'll leave you guys to it. And then this dude who left behind a manifesto. I would ask you guys to read that manifesto. That manifesto is available online. I read part of it. Actually, I read all of it, and the dude felt that whatever his battles were, I don't fully understand what he was fighting actually, given the route he took. But whatever his battles were, he felt that he wants to see a massive culture war in the West. And for some reason, the dude picked US as one of his potential repercussions of his actions. I don't know how he was all pointing out. But if you read that manifesto, it reads like a YouTuber writing out his video description to get the maximum possible exposure. It seems like an SEO optimized notion. If for those of you guys unfamiliar, when you're putting a content online, your idea, what you're trying to do to get maximum exposure is to get in as much keywords that you think people are searching for online. That's how your content gets exposure. This dude's manifesto seemed like he was just trying to reach as many lenses as possible. The dude said he likes Candace Owens. Apparently that's a thing. A white supremacist, ethno-state kind of guy is inspired by a black conservative. I'm not sure if I want to believe that, but, you know, to each our own, I guess. The dude said sub to PewDiePie, which I think anyone familiar with the internet is this massive meme going on because of our favorite online creator, PewDiePie. The dude was obviously more versed in meme culture than I am, so I can't even explain most of his references. And he also mentioned stuff like about him being a commie and eco-fascist. I don't believe any of this. It seems like he just wanted a huge left-right culture war, and so far he succeeded. And the reason why I say he succeeded is because I looked at the commentary, the usual suspects, the CNN, the MSNBCs, the Young Turks, and it seems like everybody found his manifesto, right? The manifesto has everything, and everyone's like, okay, what do I pick from that manifesto that I want to be true? So the regressives, they look at that manifesto and they're like, oh, it said sub to PewDiePie, it said Candace Owens, this must be why this guy did whatever he did. And then people who are more allied or more closely aligned to what I believe or what I think politically looked at that manifesto and were like, oh, it said communist, it said eco-fascist, maybe that's what motivated him to do whatever it is. I am not going to go down this road of what I think motivated him, because that manifesto, for the most part, it's garbage, from what I understand. And when I say garbage, I mean if you read 10 lines of it, you have to figure out which 8 of those things are false and which 2 is true. And there's no way for any of us to do that. But given how clicks work, and given how the media enterprise works, that is not a burden, not an intellectual burden that the newspapers want to take on. So they're just going to pick and disseminate the side of the manifesto that they want out there. I wish people would stop doing this, because this guy is... I don't want this guy to succeed in creating a culture war, but I might be alone. And going back to what I said earlier on, let's see if we as a society can understand his grievances. Let's see if other people that have the same grievances, let's see if these people are allowed to have a conversation, address those grievances in a healthy manner. Because as I said, if something's powerful enough to motivate one person to cross the line, chances are it can motivate a lot more people. The story of Ebba Åkerlund is in no way an outlier to what's been happening in Germany and Sweden from 2013 onwards, probably earlier. So yeah, people trying to censor and suppress conversations regarding things that make us uncomfortable, especially when it involves things like the religion. You're probably not gonna help anyone in the long run. So a guy named Fraser Anning, a senator in Australia, I don't know any of his views. I'm not saying I support him. I have no idea what this guy stands for. I've never heard of him. I don't keep up with Australian politics. After the incident, came up with what he thought was a condemnation. Not the best condemnation, I have to say. In light of everything, very callous. Comes off as perhaps not his best work. But anyways, it's a free country. Say what you want. He didn't he wasn't pro shooting people, but a lot of people were mad, and then this happened. So yeah, that's generally my thing. Tried to be as cold and objective as I could about the whole thing, and hope you guys got something out of it. I'll talk to you guys soon.